Welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today we're exploring a space that, for millions of people, really is a kind of sanctuary, the nerd and anime community. It's this whole culture built around a shared passion, for fantasy, sci-fi, comics, video games, Japanese animation.
It's a massive, unbelievably vibrant global culture.
Yeah.
And it really prides itself on being a refuge for the outsider, the place where you can finally find your people.
Right.
That whole reputation as an accepting haven is like central to its whole identity.
Absolutely. And that reputation is exactly why the subject of this deep dive is so vital. And to be honest, a little disheartening.
Yes.
Our analysis is really focusing on the persistent sort of systemic problems of racism and sexism that thrive just beneath the surface of the conventions, the cosplays, the online forums.
It's a really harsh reality that a lot of fans have to navigate every single day.
And the central contradiction here is just, it's painful to look at.
It is. I mean, think about the media that finds these spaces. Anime, comics, fantasy novels. They're so often about these grand themes of fighting injustice.
The ultimate battle against evil.
Exactly. Right. Battling institutional oppression, welcoming the misunderstood hero. And yet, the fan communities that are dedicated to this progressive, inspiring content are themselves creating these really exclusionary environments.
So the very fans who are drawn to themes of justice are dealing with bias and discrimination inside their own community.
Right, within their chosen space.
It really forces us to ask, how wide is that gap between the ideals of the content we love and the reality of the communities we build around it?
Yeah.
So our mission today is to unpack this, to understand how these biases show up, both in the media itself and, crucially, in the behavior of fellow fans. And then we can map out the solutions.
We have to see how the exclusion starts on the screen and then how it accelerates once fans start interacting with each other.
Okay, let's unpack this then, starting with the foundation. The stories in the media that fuel this entire culture.
If that shared content is the core, then I guess any bias in that content is kind of the original sin of exclusion.
Precisely. The first point of marginalization the material highlights is pretty simple. It's underrepresentation, or just as damaging, misrepresentation.
So you mean if you look back at decades of influential media, if you aren't, say, a straight white guy, you
either don't exist in the story or you exist as a caricature. That's pretty much it.
And the material gets really specific about how that character bias plays out. Let's start with characters of color. How are they usually handled?
Well, they are overwhelmingly put into stereotypical roles. They're the sidekick, maybe the wise, mystical mentor.
Or the angry foil.
The angry, hyper-aggressive foil, yeah. But they're rarely the primary hero driving the actual plot. Or like you said, they're just not there, completely absent from worlds that have, dragons and aliens and magic.
It's a glaring hole.
It is.
And we see a different but sort of equally limiting set of problems for female characters. Absolutely. The hypersexualization of female characters it's a constant point of critique.
We've all seen it.
Oh, yeah. You see these incredible female warriors running around in armor that is physically impossible. It's designed purely for looks.
Right. The chainmail bikini.
Exactly. Or their whole storyline might revolve around their sex appeal or their emotional vulnerability instead of, their power or their strategic genius.
I think we've all seen that example where you have a powerful female character. She should be central to the action, but the camera is constantly positioned to emphasize her body over her agency.
And if they're not hypersexualized, they just get reduced to the classic tropes.
Like the damsel in distress.
The damsel or the plot device whose only purpose is to motivate the male hero when she gets captured or hurt or even killed.
So these characters might have incredible powers, but the story only uses them to help the male hero's journey along. So if the media itself is ignoring or distorting the identities of this huge portion of the fan base, what does that do to the viewer? What's the psychological impact?
Oh, it's profound. I mean, when you rarely see yourself reflected, you only see these negative stereotypes, it just completely undermines that whole idea of fandom as a refuge.
It makes you feel like an outsider.
You feel like a permanent visitor in a world you absolutely love. It sends this subconscious message that your identity is secondary or just not worthy of being the hero.
And that feeling of exclusion, it doesn't just stop when you turn the screen off. It follows you into the community spaces.
Yes.
And here's where it gets really interesting and, frankly, deeply disappointing. The problem just accelerates once people step into a forum or a convention or a chat room.
This is where fandom can turn really toxic.
Yeah.
The online forums, social media. They're supposed to be the connective tissue for this global community.
But instead they become...
They're often described as becoming breeding grounds for harassment, for systemic discrimination. The anonymity of the internet just lets all those biases that are reinforced by the media just explode into active aggression.
The analysis we reviewed, it makes a really crucial, specific point here about the severity of that abuse.
Right.
It highlights that fans of color, and specifically Black women, they often face the absolute most egregious forms of it.
That's a key, critical detail we can't just gloss over. It's so important. They're often subjected to this crushing combination of racist comments, deeply misogynistic language, online bullying,
And even death threats.
and in many documented cases, terrifying death threats.
Yeah.
This is not just about disagreeing over a plot point. This is targeted abuse designed to force them out of the community,
Just for existing in the space?
simply for existing and having an opinion.
That is the essence of intersectionality, right? When you have multiple aspects of a person's identity, their race, their gender overlapping, the abuse isn't just... It's not just added together.
It becomes exponentially worse and distinctly personalized. It targets multiple vulnerabilities all at once.
And this extends to the general treatment of women across the community who face this constant scrutiny.
Oh, yeah. Constant and often totally unnecessary scrutiny.
So what does that look like in practice?
It's just constant judgment. Women are judged on their appearance. Their cosplay is either too revealing or not accurate enough, but it's beyond just looks. They're judged on their knowledge.
They have to prove themselves.
They have to constantly prove their authenticity as fans. They get hit with these arbitrary knowledge tests. Name the sixth side character, recall some obscure historical reference, just to justify being there.
That sounds like the perfect lead-in to one of the most destructive things in these communities, gatekeeping.
It is the ultimate weaponization of fandom. Gatekeeping is when these self-proclaimed true fans try to exclude other people by setting up these arbitrary, often ridiculous criteria for being a fan.
But why? I mean, if the whole point is to share a passion, why build walls around it?
It's often rooted in this desire for superiority, for perceived expertise. For some people, their identity is all tied up in knowing more than others. They feel that if the fandom gets too broad, their special knowledge loses its value.
But when that gatekeeping intersects with racial and gender bias,
It becomes something far more insidious.
how does that show up?
Well, for people from marginalized groups, their passion isn't dismissed because they failed some trivia test. Their passion and their expertise are dismissed because of who they are.
Their race or their gender becomes the real reason.
It becomes the primary arbitrary criteria for exclusion.
Yeah.
They can quote every manga volume, go to every convention, and still be told they're a fake fan or they're just following a trend.
So it's not actually about their knowledge. It's about using trivia to maintain a homogenous social hierarchy.
Exactly.
It's a way of saying, this space belongs to us and we don't care how much you love this thing.
Precisely. And this isn't just, anecdotal drama from a few incidents. The sheer volume of documented examples of this stuff, it underscores that this is a deeply systemic problem.
Which means it requires systemic solutions. That brings us to the crucial question. If the fandom really wants to align with the progressive ideals and the stories it loves, what's the path forward? The analysis suggests this multifaceted approach.
Yes, the solutions have to hit on all three levels. We have to start with approach one, creator responsibility. The media creators, the publishers, they hold a significant amount of power here.
And what does real responsibility look like? I mean, beyond just adding one diverse character to a roster.
It requires a real commitment to substantive, nuanced representation. In characters and in storytelling, it means actively challenging the old tropes.
So not just swapping a male character for a female one.
Right. It's about fundamentally writing female characters who are complex, whose motivations aren't just romantic, and whose power is actually respected by the story. And critically, it also means actively seeking out and amplifying the voices of marginalized creators behind the scenes.
Writers, artists, directors.
Exactly. To make sure these perspectives are portrayed authentically and respectfully right from the start.
That really shifts the whole narrative from the ground up. Okay, so the second approach focuses on the spaces where fans interact. Community enforcement.
This one is so critical for online platforms, forums, convention organizers. They have to establish and, most importantly, rigorously enforce clear, non-negotiable guidelines against harassment.
It's not enough to just have rules buried in an FAQ page somewhere.
Not at all. And accountability is key. Moderation needs to be proactive, not just reactive.
What do you mean by that?
Community managers can't just wait for dozens of reports to pile up before they do something. They have to actively identify and remove offensive content, especially when it targets marginalized people. And the consequences have to be real.
So, repeat offenders.
Repeat offenders can't be allowed to just poison the well. They have to face clear penalties, including permanent bans. Without real consequences, the behavior is basically being approved.
That moves the responsibility from the victim to the platform itself.
Absolutely. No one should be expected to just constantly report abuse to exist in a hobby space.
Finally, we get to the most important and probably the most challenging area, individual fan behavior, fostering allyship.
And this relies entirely on the majority within the community, those from more privileged backgrounds, to actively choose to support and advocate for their marginalized peers.
It means moving from just being a passive observer
To being an active participant in solving the problem.
So what does that active allyship look like, say, at a comic convention or in an online discussion?
It means challenging problematic behavior the moment you see it, even if it feels uncomfortable. It means stepping in when someone is being targeted with sexist or racist comments, not just silently scrolling past.
And also amplifying marginalized voices.
Yes, actively amplifying them. Sharing and supporting their creative work, their thoughtful reviews, their cosplay.
So it's about consciously stepping back and using your own social capital to clear space for other people.
Exactly. And the most basic step is education. It involves educating yourself about the real-world impact of this stuff and challenging your own unconscious biases about who deserves to be called a true fan. Allyship demands a deliberate shift in perspective and in action.
This analysis gives us a really sobering synthesis. We've explored this intense duality at the heart of the nerd and anime community. You've got this contrast between the progressive, inspiring themes and the content we love, stories about fighting for justice and freedom.
And then the exclusionary, sometimes violent behavior you find in the van communities. It's a profound conflict. It can't be ignored.
It really can't.
And the change requires a collective commitment to dismantling these biases. Every single fan, from the casual reader to the most dedicated cosplayer, has a role in fostering a culture of genuine respect and understanding.
And since that cultural shift really demands individual action, and given how much we've talked about weaponizing expertise through gatekeeping, here is a final provocative thought for you to consider. If the core appeal of fandom is passion and deep knowledge of the subject matter, what specific personal actions are required to ensure that your own passion, your devotion to the details and the lore, doesn't inadvertently become a tool of exclusion when you're interacting with new or different types of fans? Something for you to mull or explore on your own.